Hello, the Uneducated Businessman here. Your project has finished. It's time to crack out the big fat cigar, sit back and relax. Well, not quite. You've got to close out a project, and you've got to close it out properly. And first step of closing out a project is evaluate it. You've got to make sure you go over everything within that project and evaluate what's happened on three basic levels, and that's quality, that's schedule, and that's cost. You've got to make sure, did the objectives get met? Has the project delivered on its specifications? You've got to check that. You've got to make sure it come in on schedule, or if it didn't come in on schedule, what made it overrun? What was the obstacles you had to overcome to get it to come in, but what stopped it coming in on time? You got to learn from this, because this won't be your last project you're going to manage. You're going to be managing many more. So if you can sit back and you can evaluate and you can learn from your mistakes, you can then come up with solutions to these mistakes and these problems and these occurrences for your next project. So when when you are running your next project and you can see this is happening, that happened last time, I remember it, I worked out what to do if this happened, and it leads to a smoother process as you're moving forward. But you've also got to look at the cost as well. I mean, cost is huge, especially if you're the one paying for it. You do not want your projects coming in too much over budget. You've got to expect a little bit of wiggle room. But at the end of the day, you don't want projects coming in way over what you've budgeted. It may make the whole project null and void, worthless. So again, you've got to look at what caused the project to overrun on cost. Look at the problem, work out a solution, or look at what you come up with as a solution, and then make sure you document it somewhere. So when you are going for your next project, you've always got this list of I do this in sales a lot, actually. If I'm selling something, I will evaluate every sale, and I will evaluate every objection I get, and then I will write down what the person said, and then I'll write down what I could have said to overcome that objection. And it's the same with evaluating your project. It's not so much objections, it's problems. What was the problem? Okay, what was the solution? And just write it down and make a list of all of this. So when your next project comes up, you've got a list of all the problems that could typically go wrong, and you know what to do when they go wrong. It just makes it work just that much quicker. But don't make the mistake of criticizing people at this stage. If at the end of the day you have run into problems and people have been at fault, it's not worth criticizing them when you've got to the end. Learn from it, and maybe even bring in an outside person who's detached from that project to evaluate what you've done. That can be a great way of learning, because sometimes when we're too involved, and when the people around us are too involved, and we look back, we can sometimes see it through rose tinted glasses, and we don't always see the wood for the trees. It doesn't become obvious to us that was my fault, that was your fault, we should have done this, we should have done that, because we're too engulfed in it. So sometimes bringing in someone in from the outside, this is the project, these are all the documents we had, we went through all of this and we ticked everything off, these were the outcomes, and get them to evaluate it, get them to talk to the staff, get them to talk to yourself, and get them to perform a report from a completely non-biased perspective. They're not attached to people within the organisation. As leaders, we can sometimes become attached to certain people and detached from other people, and we can show bias, and we may not mean to, but it happens. But when you bring in someone from the outside and they've got no emotional detachment to your project, to you, or to your staff, they can be completely objective, and they can give you real great insight into how your project went, and really evaluate it from a looking down sort of kind of holistic approach and not be biased about anything, and give you the nuts and bolts of what went well, what didn't go well, what you need to do for your next projects to make sure the not so good stuff is eradicated. So make sure before you get that cigar out, you evaluate your project, and you look at it from, as I said, the cost, the schedule, and the quality. And if you can work out those three things, you'll be in very, very good stead for next time you're doing. And I'm going to talk a little bit about in the next video about the lessons you've learned and producing a final report as well. And then we're going to wrap up the project management for a period of time. I will come back to it in more detail. As I've always said, these are quite basic insights in how to do this kind of stuff, and as we get more educated through what we're learning, we'll ramp it up and we'll get it even better. So yeah, look out for the next video. It will be on lessons learned from your project and how to produce a final report. I hope that was useful. As always, I'm the Uneducated Businessman. I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Over and out.